Remember when you were a kid and you played Spot the Difference with kind of puzzle books and things? We're going to play it with Keir Starmer today. I'm going to share two short videos by Keir, and you can play Spot the Difference between what he has to say in both of them. Let's start with one from the other day. This is Keir condemning Israel.
First, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say something about the horrific situation in Gaza, where the level of suffering, innocent children being bombed again, is utterly intolerable. Mr. Speaker, over the weekend we coordinated a response with our allies, as set out in my statement with President Macron and Prime Minister Carney last night. And I want to put on record today that we're horrified by the escalation from Israel. We repeat our demand for a ceasefire as the only way to free the hostages. We repeat our opposition to settlements in the West Bank. And we repeat our demand to massively scale up humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The recent announcement that Israel will allow a basic quantity of food into Gaza, a basic quantity, is totally and utterly inadequate. So we must coordinate our response, because this war has gone on for far too long. We cannot allow the people of Gaza to starve, and the Foreign Secretary will come to the House shortly to set out our response in detail.
Now, regardless of which side you side on what's going on in Gaza, I'm sure most people don't like people who contradict themselves too much. Now, people changing their opinion in politics is fine, because people do change opinions over time and modify them as new facts present themselves. But Keir Starmer is there yesterday condemning Israel. About 9 months ago, he was defending their right to withhold water and food. And the situation, if anything, hasn't really changed all that much. It was just as brutal 9 months ago. Yes, the brutality has ramped up somewhat, but and yes, people seem to be trying to turn Israel into a pariah state. I can't say I entirely blame them. Israel has pushed itself down that road. But in any case, here's Keir going on LBC.
Very clear. Israel does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principles that Israel has a right to defend herself and Hamas bears responsibility. I'm very clear.
Right, let's stop sharing that. Now, of course, Israel does have a right to defend herself from Hamas. I'd actually see that, even though I'm no fan of the way that it's been accomplished. No fan at all. I'm not going to defend the wonderful figures who populate Hamas. They are inhumane and barbarous. Why it exists, of course, and who fund it, that's an entirely different matter, and one I'm not going to get into. But my main point here is Keir Starmer yet again flip-flopping. Keir Starmer by this point could just hold up a plastic flip-flop in Parliament in front of him every time he enters and goes, yo, this is my motto, this is my ping, and just hold that up, because it's getting quite ridiculous. He's backtracked, flip-flopped on so many things that it's impossible to take him seriously. All politicians have a habit of doing this to some extent, because they will try and play for the optics. But Keir has now reached the point where today he's flip-flopping on, to some extent, on the winter fuel payments scandal, because he knows it's, well, excuse me for swearing, he knows it's fucked him up the arse like a giant broomstick with no Vaseline. It's impossible at this point to trust this man, and whether you are left, right-wing, or whatever your politics are, Keir Starmer is effectively untrustworthy to any degree. And I think it's one area where I might even side with people who are slightly right wing is that I'd like to see Keir removed. I might not like to see reform in there because I don't think they'll be competent at all, but they'll find out there's a great deal of difference from being in the tent and being in the tent and having to run things. But certainly, I think it's time for Starmer to go.